Number one, don't lie when you're testifying in court under oath. Don't commit perjury.
I'm very disappointed in today's outcome.
If you were scared to death.
What if the system you trusted turned against you, leaving you fighting to prove your innocence? Umar Zamir faced this exact nightmare. Accused of deliberately killing a police officer, his life was upended, but the truth revealed a far darker reality. It all began on July 1st, 2021, at Toronto's Nathan Phillips Square. Zamir, his pregnant wife, and their 2-year-old son were celebrating Canada Day when their evening took a shocking turn. Police detectives Jeffrey Northrup and Lisa Forbes arrived in plain clothes to investigate a separate stabbing. For Zamir, what should have been a normal night became an ordeal of confusion and terror.
Number one, don't lie when you're testifying in court under oath. Don't commit perjury.
I'm very disappointed in today's outcome.
If you were scared to death.
Forbes later testified that she and Northrup approached Zamir's car, repeatedly identifying as police and flashing their badges. But for Zamir, two plainclothes individuals banging on his vehicle didn't resemble law enforcement. It felt like a direct threat. Panic set in as the situation escalated. Zamir saw no uniformed officers or marked vehicles, only a dark gray van blocking his path. Fearful for his family's safety, he attempted to drive away. What happened next became the crux of the prosecution's case. Forbes claimed Zamir struck Northrup intentionally as he reversed the car. Zamir, however, insisted it was an accident. Amid the chaos, he failed to see Northrup, who tragically succumbed to his injuries. In those moments, Zamir's world spiraled out of control. Armed plainclothesmen surrounded his vehicle, shattering any remaining sense of clarity. He and his wife were dragged out at gunpoint, with officers allegedly striking him even after he was restrained. This terrifying incident resulted in first-degree murder charges against Zamir, turning his life upside down. He was jailed for 3 months, missing the birth of his daughter and labeled a killer. But the story wasn't as clear-cut as the police claimed. Behind the scenes, questions about collusion, flawed evidence, and police misconduct began to surface, threatening to unravel the entire case. Following the incident, Umar Zamir was immediately taken into custody. Officers treated him as a dangerous criminal, despite his insistence that the collision was an accident. Reports suggest he was subjected to harsh treatment, including being forcibly restrained and allegedly struck by officers during his arrest. His wife, who was present with their toddler, was left helpless as her husband was dragged into a legal nightmare. The police narrative painted Zamir as a cold-blooded murderer, claiming he deliberately struck Detective Northrup. They emphasized his decision to flee the scene as proof of intent. However, what the prosecution framed as malicious actions, Zamir and his defense argued was an act of pure panic, born from a fear for his family's safety. Zamir was charged with first-degree murder, a decision that came with devastating consequences. As this charge implied premeditated intent, it carried the harshest penalties, and the Crown presented the case as if Zamir had intentionally targeted an officer of the law. Denied bail initially, Zamir spent 3 months in jail awaiting trial, separated from his pregnant wife and young son. He missed the birth of his daughter, an experience that deepened his sense of injustice. The Crown opposed his release, arguing that he posed a danger to the community. However, his defense pushed back, emphasizing his lack of criminal history and the absence of any evidence that he planned to harm anyone.
First-degree murder, just to bring people back into the courtroom, is that he must, and he did know that it was a police officer that he was running over. That's what takes a murder, such as second-degree murder, where there's an intention to kill or recklessness as to whether death will ensue. If it's a police officer, that immediately elevates it to first-degree murder. You don't need planned and deliberate the way you do in other cases that don't involve a police officer.
Eventually, Zamir was released on bail under strict conditions, but his fight was far from over. He remained under constant scrutiny and faced a daunting trial ahead. The trial unveiled conflicting testimonies and inconsistencies in the police accounts. Forbes' statement suggested Zamir intentionally struck Northrup, but under cross-examination, her recollection of events showed gaps and contradictions. Forensic evidence revealed that Northrup's injuries were consistent with a sudden, accidental impact, not a deliberate act. Furthermore, questions arose about the police's handling of the scene, including whether Zamir was adequately informed that his pursuers were officers. The defense argued that the absence of uniforms and badges visible only briefly and the aggressive approach justified Zamir's fear. As the trial progressed, it became clear that the case was not as straightforward as the prosecution had claimed. The possibility of police collusion and exaggeration loomed, shaking the foundation of their accusations. The courtroom drama was only beginning to unfold. Finally, after several weeks of vigorous arguments and rigorous debates, the trial came. As for the jury, after perusing the whole evidence, it found unanimously, not guilty. Umar Zamir was acquitted before all charges, as the court admitted that the prosecution had not been able to prove the intention beyond reasonable figures. The defense lawyer proved marks such as fear against R and not malice, while the situation was exaggerated by the handling of the police. Without a doubt, the verdict saddens most in Zamir's case. Months of bearing the label of murderer mean that he finally gets to go home to his family. But the scars would take a lot longer to heal. The acquittal raged a huge public debate. Zamir's supporters hailed the verdict as a victory for justice, saying that it was an action out of fear and not a planned crime. His sympathizers felt for him after realizing how the police laid a trap for him using plain clothes without identification. However, for some critics, including some law enforcement groups, that verdict angered them, arguing that it served to demean police authority and jeopardized some officers. Social media became a battleground with furious discussions if Zamir acted with justification or in recklessness. Media coverage made a huge difference in shaping public opinion. Some outlets emphasize the contradictions in the cop's story, while others zoom in on the threat officer's face in the line of duty, thereby making Zamir the bad guy.
I never meant any of this to happen. I am sorry for what had happened, but I never meant any of this to happen to this day. I can't thank enough to Mr. Nadir, Mr. Alex. I can just say this, these are not just the lawyers, these are angels for me. They worked.
The case raised serious questions about the conduct of law enforcement. Why did the officers fail to identify themselves? Was their approach unnecessarily aggressive, leading to a situation where Zamir's fear overtook reason? These questions fueled broader discussions about police accountability and the ethical obligations of officers during civilian encounters. The legal system itself came under scrutiny. Critics questioned whether the Crown rushed to file charges based on incomplete evidence, while others highlighted how racial and cultural biases might have influenced initial perceptions of Zamir's intent. For Zamir, the ordeal served as a painful reminder of how quickly the system can turn against someone. While the verdict offered a sense of closure, the lingering questions about police practices and public safety ensured that his case would remain a topic of debate for years to come.
Truth. When Nadir first came to me, when I was in the detention center, and I asked him, how would you pursue, how would you go with my case? He said, I know it's very complex, but I know I'm dealing with the truth, and I won't leave you by your side. Just before the verdict, he only said me one thing: no matter what the verdict will come, I will be with your side. Now, later, and always been with. So Nadir, thank you very much. Alex, thank you very much. She is some.
The case of Umar Zamir highlights the complexities of justice in a system that often struggles to balance public safety with individual rights. From a terrifying encounter with officers to a trial that questioned the very fabric of law enforcement ethics, his journey exposed deep flaws in policing practices and judicial procedures. While Zamir was ultimately acquitted, the case left a lasting impression on society, sparking critical conversations about accountability, transparency, and the human cost of rushed judgments.
and the lead investigator, Jeff Allington. I wouldn't have gotten through this process without the unwavering support from Chief Demke, all of the Toronto Police Service, John Reid, and the Toronto Police Association. I am very disappointed in today's outcome. From day one, all I've wanted is accountability. We miss Jeff every day. However, we continue on with him in our...
For Zamir, the nightmare is over, but the scars of this ordeal will likely remain for a lifetime. His story isn't just about one man's struggle, it's a reminder to question narratives and hold institutions accountable. What do you think? Was justice truly served, or does this case reflect a deeper issue within the system? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
We haven't even begun to talk about what's next from a legal perspective. We were so focused on getting to this day. That's what we've been singularly focused on. I couldn't even begin to tell you what advice I would give if Mr. Zamir hypothetically were to ask me about that very question.
If you found this story as thought-provoking as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that challenge perspectives and spark meaningful discussions. And stay tuned. Next time, we'll uncover another case that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.